So hello and welcome everyone. On behalf of the Clean Mobility Options Program Administration team, we thank you for taking time out of your day to learn more about the Mobility Project Voucher Phase 2 application process and requirements. Um, just go over a couple things real quick. My name is Mateo Henderson, and I'm part of the program administrative team from CalSTART. Joining me today is my colleague Josh Meyer from CivicWell. We are conducting this Phase 2 application walkthrough because the application process is based on first come, first serve. So whether you're applying for set aside or open funding, we want to make sure you are aware of the support provided, the step-by-step process, and how to successfully complete the Phase 2 in the event your Phase 1 application has been selected to proceed to the final application process. We'll go over that a little bit further later. Our goal is to provide clear guidance on what to expect during this webinar. So before we begin, let me go over some logistics. There will be time for verbal questions throughout the presentation. We kindly ask that you provide your name and organization prior to asking the question. We also ask that you please keep your questions relevant to the MPV Phase 2 application or just overall application process. If you have any in-depth questions related to your application or about CMO in general, we offer ongoing technical assistance that you can access, which I'll go over as well. So thank you all for joining us today. So the CMO Voucher Pilot Program is administered by the California Air Resources Board and the program administrative team, which includes CalSTART, Shared Use Mobility Center, and CivicWell. So I'll start a poll here, and I'll just read it out loud. Are you applying to the Mobility Project Voucher Phase 1? Yes, I'm already working on my application. That's A. B is yes, but I haven't started my application. C is I need support with my application. And then D, I have not yet decided. So we'll put that poll up. Oh, let's see here. Okay, we're having a little technical difficulties, but I will go back to that poll a little bit later in the presentation. All right, next slide, please. So during this webinar, we will begin with the recap of the program background goals and types of funding available for those who are not familiar with the CMO program. After that, we will review the basic eligibility requirements for the Mobility Project Voucher and the Phase 2 application process. We will also provide step-by-step guidance to successfully complete the Phase 2 application sections 1 through 7. And then lastly, we will highlight the key points we discussed during the presentation. So let me know if you have any other questions. All right. First, let's start with an overview of the Clean Mobility Options Program and background. The Clean Mobility Options, which is CMO program, is dedicated to assisting underserved communities and launching their own clean mobility option programs by offering funding and fostering community building initiatives. The Clean Mobility Options program is part of California Climate Investment, which is a statewide initiative that leverages billions of cap and trade dollars to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, improve public health, strengthen the economy, enhance the environment, particularly in underserved communities. Additionally, the CMO program is funded by the California Energy Commission's Transportation Program. Sources of funding for the CMO program include California Climate Investment Funds, as well as funds from the California Energy Commission. So some of the program goals here are the Clean Mobility Option Program was created to address barriers to clean transportation access for low income and disadvantaged California communities. increase mobility options for low-income and disadvantaged communities across the state, advance workforce development and clean transportation, and expand zero-emission vehicle equity and access without the high cost of ownership, provide community-driven solutions that are safe, reliable, and affordable, improve air quality by reducing greenhouse gas emissions and pollutants. Let me know if you have any other questions later in the presentation. The Clean Mobility Options Program provides funding for the following service models, which can be combined in various ways: short-term rental, checkout membership subscription basis, as well as fares for traditional transit and ride-on-demand services such as EV car sharing services, bike sharing and scooter sharing available for short-term rentals to members, carpool and van pooling, innovative transit services like on-demand shuttles, vans, and buses, microtransit as well, fixed route transit services, ride-on-demand services similar to those provided by Uber and Lyft. So let's talk about the $33 million of Clean Mobility Options funding that supports two types of vouchers. The first type, which is CMO's Community Transportation Needs Assessment, closed on December 7th, 2022. It will provide up to $100,000 of voucher funding for 3 tribal governments and 9 general awardees, with the tribal set aside of $200,000 for eligible projects for a 12-month term. The total available funding for the needs assessment is $1 million. Second, CMO's Mobility Project Voucher, which is intended to support the planning, development, and implementation of small-scale clean mobility projects throughout the state, with the total available funds of about $33 million, has a maximum of $1.5 million for each mobility project for a 5-year term, which includes up to $7.5 million set aside for previous CMO Community Transportation Needs Assessment awardees, and in addition, $3 million set aside for tribal governments, $10 million set aside for current Window 1 mobility project awardees, and $12.5 million for new MPV awardees. Here are the Window 1 Tribal Mobility Project Voucher awardees: Kauai Band of Indians. Their project is called the Kauai Clean Mobility Project, and also 29 Palms Band of Mission Indians, and their project is on-demand electric services. One of the CMO's program main assets is free full-cycle technical assistance from pre-application assistance to and through project planning and implementation. CMO's individualized technical assistance has been well utilized and shown to be effective for applicants. In addition to our webinars, technical assistance is offered by email, phone call, or online form system, weekly office hours, and information sessions. We also offer specialized tribal technical assistance and engagement. Lastly, there are tools and guides located on our website to conduct needs assessment and mobility projects. Our technical assistance team works with you to guide you and create the best possible project for your community. If you would like to access technical assistance, you can do so by submitting an online form to us on our website at cleanmobilityoptions.org/help/, calling the CMO hotline at 626-744-5670, scheduling a virtual information session by emailing us at info@cleanmobilityoptions.org, attending one of our office hours, which takes place every Thursday from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. on Zoom. So that's just right after this webinar, or check out all the webinar recordings on our events page in the webinar archive section. In this section, we will highlight the Mobility Project Voucher funding and basic eligibility requirements. In this project, the lead applicant can be tribal governments, including all federally recognized tribes in California, listed on the most recent notice of the Federal Register, and other non-federally recognized California tribal governments, including those listed on the California Tribal Consultation List, maintained by the California Native American Heritage Commissions. Public agencies as well, and nonprofits that have operated for at least 1 year and is based in California. CARB's Clean Mobility Project grantees for new project expansion or the continuing existing service with an expansion. And then also CMO Window 1 Mobility Project Voucher awardees for new projects only. Sub-applicants consist of any entity you will partner with to help launch and run a mobility project, which can be a public, private, or nonprofit organization, or any entity with lead applicant eligibility, which could include organizations that provide clean mobility services, infrastructure, equipment and installation, community outreach services, and technical expertise and assistance, also known as a mobility provider. Also, the lead applicant may participate as a sub-applicant in other applications as well. CMO is designed to meet the mobility needs that directly benefit California's underserved communities and residents identified in their project area, which is defined as the geographical area where the users live, where the services will operate, and where infrastructure is to be installed. To qualify, the project area served must fall in one of the three of these eligible project areas. It is a tribal land within SB 535 disadvantaged communities or AB 1550 low-income communities. It is a SB 535 disadvantaged community located in Cali EPA 4.0 screen. This screening tool lists census tracts that are disproportionately burdened and vulnerable to multiple sources of pollution. It is also located in an AB 1550 low-income community. To note, non-federal tribes may still be eligible if they're in an AB 1550 low-income community and or a disadvantaged community. To help you navigate eligible project areas, we have provided on the CMO website an interactive map, which you see here, where specific requirements are listed. It's a very useful tool. So I will stop here and take a moment to ask any questions that any of you have regarding what we just covered. And we will unmute you if you just include your raised hand. I'll give it a couple more seconds. Doesn't look like we have any questions right now. So with that, I will continue with the presentation. And we also have questions at the end of the slide deck as well. So this won't be your only time. Now let's move on, reviewing the mobility project voucher two-phase application process with emphasis in the second phase and what is needed. It is important to note that submitting an application during phase one does not guarantee funding. All applications will go through a review and evaluation process to ensure that they meet the eligibility requirement and are aligned with the program requirements. The program administrative team will then invite selected applicants to move on to phase two and complete the remaining sections of the application. Only those who successfully complete both phases of the application process will receive an intent to award later in the process. Phase one of the mobility project voucher application process is open to all applicants and requires basic eligibility information, such as project team profile, a short project narrative, a community transportation needs assessment completed within 4 years of submission, a project area profile, the total requested voucher amount, and additional supporting documents. If you have any questions or need assistance with your application, you can reach us we can reach out to us via our office hours coming up next from 12 to 1 p.m. or every Thursday from 12 to 1 p.m. In phase 2 of the Mobility Project Voucher application, invited applicants will be required to provide more detailed information about their proposed project and complete various additional sections, including a project narrative, a project milestone schedule, a community outreach plan, a budget worksheet, a financial sustainability plan. They may also be required to provide supporting documents depending on the specifics of their project, and that's where as applicable. These additional requirements are designed to provide a more comprehensive and detailed overview of the proposed project and its potential impact on the community. The phase 2 application period begins in early May and ends at a later confirmed deadline in late summer. Applicants who have completed their application by the deadline will be reviewed by program administrator team, who will then be sent a notice of intent to award to successful applicants in early fall. So as you can see here, the phase 1 opens in March 1st at 9 a.m. That's coming up soon. From there, if oversubscribed, we will then begin the randomization process a couple weeks after that. And then once we review the applications for completeness, then we will notify awardees or applicants that they will be invited to move on to phase 2. And between the invitation to move to phase 2 and the deadline, the applicants are able to complete their final application, and the administrative team will review their the requirements and their submissions and help them as they work through it. And then we will shortly after that provide a notice of intent to award in that early fall. So basically from March 1st to about early fall, that's when we will be working through all of the phases of the applications and intent to award. Using the application guideline and the implementation manual can definitely help ensure that your application is complete and meets all the necessary requirements. Using the find function Control F to search for specific keywords in the implementation manual can be a helpful tool for finding information quickly. And of course, the CMO team is always available to assist with any questions or concerns. We definitely highlight the phase 2 application guide, which you will have access to later on. And with that, I will stop here and allow Josh to continue with sections 1 through 7 of the application phase 2 walkthrough.
Thank you, Mateo, and good morning, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. So let's now take some time to walk through the preview of the second phase application components, and that's for those who are invited to the next stage. So as with phase 1, which opens on March 9th, as Mateo mentioned, you will fill out the application online, but you will also have the option to mail in your application as well. And it is important to recognize that applications won't be accepted by email. Okay, so the very first part is just confirming your primary contact information. Here's a view of the input form. And in this first section, you'll want to enter the application key or code, which will be provided by the administrator team. It'll help you transfer information submitted in phase 1 into the phase 2 application, allow you to pick up where you were left off. You also have the opportunity to provide any other information that would be helpful for communication and coordination, for example, secondary means of contact, accessibility needs, and the like. It is important to recognize that neither the application key, the code that you get, nor the invitation to apply to phase 2 is transferable to another organization. So it will stay with whoever started phase 1. Okay, so a little bit more now on the team project and details. Again, this is a preview of what the portal will look like. And one of the things that will be asked for is a project milestone schedule. And there will be a template that will be provided where applicants can lay out their milestones for the course of the project, including steps along the way for community engagement. The milestone schedule will define key steps and timelines, schedule, and so forth needed to implement the project and operate the service for a minimum of 4 years. So here's a sample template. It's not something that I realize it's kind of small and hard to read, but just to give you a kind of a visual what will be coming in phase 2. And this is just an example showing the milestones and schedules over a 15-month period from kickoff to planning and preparation onto the step of acquiring equipment and vehicles, setting up an installation, and launch of operations. And here's where in the narrative you would add some more information as applicable, that other details about the project. For example, if permits will be needed for installing charging equipment, for example, or if we're planning to include transportation enhancements, which is an eligible cost. And there's more information about what those are. But the types of things that transformation enhancements include are things like subsidies or passes for public transit, trip planning applications to help users coordinate and plan trips using the service along with other services and things of that nature. Okay. So the third part, this is a part of the application where it's an online form where applicants would put in information demonstrating community-based organization support. However, this is not applicable to tribes, because really this is meant, they're not required to fill out this application because it really doesn't, this community-based organization support pertains to non-tribal local governments and public agencies that are lead applicants and need to demonstrate that support. So you'll see a prompt for that. If you, as a tribal government, you will be able to skip this section and go past questions related to this. Okay, so on to community engagement activities. So there's a section about that. And this section addresses plans for engaging community members, tribal members, and maybe possibly other users that you would be encouraging if that is applicable during the course of the project. And we'll also talk a little bit about community resource contribution requirements. So the first field is around the community outreach plan. And here's where you provide a description of the strategy to engage with the residents, the users through outreach and education, including key partners, if applicable, and their roles and experience with the community. And you'll also have information about activities to promote and advertise the service to potential users, and to conduct outreach to other stakeholders who may be affected by new infrastructure, other aspects of the project. And here we can talk about community resource contributions. If you've had a look at phase 1 or had a look at the implementation manual, one of the requirements is to show at least 5 leverage sources, resources, and list those that will help support the project. And this is really investments in the form of resource contributions that supplement the actual voucher funding. And these are really meant to help support the long-term sustainability of the project beyond to meet the 5-year voucher agreement term. And these resource contributions don't have to be monetary in nature, and you're not required to estimate the actual monetary value of the contribution. So it can be in kind and other types of resources. So here's potential examples of resource contribution types. And you will be asked to upload documentation of each community resource contribution. Again, here are a couple of examples. There is a full list of examples in the implementation manual, starting on page 41, which you can get the implementation manual from the Clean Mobility Options website. And documentation could be documentation of equipment, infrastructure, labor, other kinds of in-kind resources, or actual materials and funds as well that are coming from different sources to support the project. Okay, so now let's move on to the section that addresses the budget and plan for financial sustainability. So here you'll be asked for a budget using a template that will be provided. And there you'll want to ensure that the total amount is consistent with the amount that was asked, requested in phase 1. So you want to maintain that consistency. The budget is really what you would expect. It's there to describe the total estimated costs during the 5-year voucher agreement term, itemized by the different components, the different types of costs. And it will be important, and we'll be available to help with this and through technical assistance to make sure that it's clear and concise and a reasonable budget that lists expenditures and sources of funds in a logical sequence in terms of timing that leads to the on-time completion of the project. And as I mentioned, the budget template will be available online on the website. And this budget sheet, along with the milestone schedule that we talked about, are going to be become the basis for payment requests. So this is where you'll want to really put a lot of thought into how you expect the project to move forward financially. So here's a sample budget with a breakdown for labor, planning, outreach and marketing, vehicles and equipment, operations, maintenance, and so forth. Again, this is not something you need to necessarily read right now, but it's just to give you a visual of what the budget template will look like. So let's move on then to the sections about project sustainability. And this section addresses strategies for sustainability as well as risk management. You'll need to describe plans to ensure that the project can be sustainable after state funding is spent, including plan commitments and resources or strategies that will carry service operations beyond the 4-year operation requirement through to at least the 5-year voucher agreement term and beyond. So as I mentioned, in a nutshell, it's really just talking about how your plans are for the project to continue when the funding is used up. So they will be asking questions about vehicles and equipment, and there you'll discuss as a matter of contingency what might happen to the vehicles and equipment should, for some reason, eventualities come along and cause the service not to continue as originally intended. And so the idea here is just thinking ahead and making sure that the resources continue to be usable and valuable and accessible to the community should the service not continue. So here you'll be asked to provide documentation to validate any plans or expectations that involve parties outside the core team and timeframes beyond the voucher funding period. Okay. So moving on to supporting documents, as you would expect, these are additional documents that would be needed to go along to support the application. There will be letters of commitments from each sub-applicant that is required if applicable. And so applicants may choose to submit letters of commitments for sub-applicants here, or you have the option to wait until after the voucher award And but before voucher execution, it will be necessary to have that letter of commitment explaining the role and commitment for the sub-applicant in the project. And sample letters will be available or are available on the CMO website. So there's an opportunity to look at those and for guidance and thinking about what might go into those. There's also the opportunity for additional optional supporting documents. And if using those, you'll just want to indicate the name of the documents and purpose in the field of the application the document is used for. This field is optional. Applicants may skip it if desired, but this is an opportunity just to upload other information that would be helpful. Okay, and we're about ready to open for questions, but there's at attestation and signature, the signature that will be required, and the primary contact must complete the signature fields. And one thing we urge you to take into consideration is make sure you just look through the basic program and application rules and procedures, that all makes sense to you, and if you need to also run that by others or legal counsel just to make sure everything seems okay before signature. Then you're ready to go, and that will complete the phase 2 application. So with that, that was a lot of information, and would like to open up the floor if you want to raise your hands. We have lots of time. Any kinds of questions are welcome. Ideally more about phase 2 application, but we can certainly help you with any questions. So if you raise your hands, we'll unmute you and love to hear from you if you have questions. Okay, I hope this is good news. I hope that everybody that it was so concise and so clear that all your questions are answered. But definitely, again, feel free to ask any questions now. And also, there are the office hours every Thursday that Mateo mentioned earlier is also another opportunity, and to have some one-on-one discussions about specific questions that you might have. And we always have the technical assistance as well. So, okay, so here's what to expect then, a recap of everything, what comes down the line. So you make it through phase 1. If you're invited to move forward, there are about 7 major application components. You'll hear about this, the notice to proceed in May. You have a narrative, the milestone schedule, the outreach plan, the resource contributions, the budget worksheet, the sustainability plan, and supporting documents where applicable. We do have our webinar series, which you can access on our website, as well as previous presentations. So particularly if you have more information, if some of this is new to you, the phase 1 application process is available. There's a recording, and we will also have this as a recording and be following up very soon, making this presentation available as well for your information. Also want to make sure that you're aware of other clean mobility funding opportunities. There's a web link here. This is the where you can look at the community, other kinds of planning grants for clean mobility in schools projects, the Sustainable Transportation Equity Project, and Access Clean California. All 3 of these are potential resources for planning, and in some cases also implementation of projects as well. And those opportunities will be coming up soon in the near future. And so with that, let's just take a moment, wondering if, yeah, you see it. Wanted to get a feel from those on the call where you're at. Are you thinking about applying? Not sure. You might need some help. You're going to do it, but you haven't started. Okay, so we have one underway, a couple of others thinking about it, and then others probably just getting information and learning more about the program. Great. Well, again, on behalf of the Clean Mobility Options Administrative Team, thank you very much for joining and taking interest in this. We think it's an exciting program, and take advantage of our technical assistance. If they're very specific questions that you're trying to ponder and work through, we'll get somebody, one of our team members will work with you, take your questions through email. We can talk, we can make call. There's any way you want. We can do a phone call, but really help you kind of think through whether this is something you're going to apply for. Are you ready? And what the requirements might be and how you can meet them. And it looks like we do have Cindy. So asking a question. So I'll unmute you and you should be able to speak.
All right, I think it's working. So as far as letters of support from people involved in the project, so a letter of support or a letter of commitment is also involved in phase 2. So, and that's from anybody who's going to be helping out or involved in the project. Is that correct?
That would be for any co-applicants. So and I would also say supporting documentation, if you wanted additional letters, would be fine, or it could also be used as documentation for a resource contribution.
Oh,
But the actual full, the more formal letter of commitment is from the co-applicant, just verifying, signed by the co-applicant. Yes, we're part of this, and this is what our role is and how we're going to participate in the project.
But if the project is on, like, say, for our case, there's going to be county roads involved, do we need a, and I am going to have a letter of support for the phase 1, but do I also need one for the phase 2 saying, this is going to affect blah, 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 and they support that?
I'm not sure I followed. Could you say again, like which ones were you thinking that you're asking you need support from?
So from Inyo County, from our county
okay.
transportation people, would I need to have a letter of support in phase 2 as well for the application?
If they're a co-applicant.
Only if they're a co-applicant. Okay.
Right. And then Mateo or Joe, anyone else on the call, if I'm mistaken, just please let me know.
So can there be different, so that they're not necessarily a co-applicant in the phase 1 application, but they can be included in phase 2? Is that right?
That I'm not as sure about. Mateo, do you have a response to that? I think you can. Yeah. I believe you can have changes. You don't want to change the budget total, and you don't want to change the lead organization, but you certainly could. There could be changes, yes, in phase 2. I think you could add others. I believe that's correct.
Yeah, like for example, there's a requirement to have a mobility provider, which can be like a lead applicant, but you don't necessarily have to have that mobility provider available and committed to the program until a little bit later. But your sub applicants things, yeah, like Josh said, things will change with the sub applicants. throughout the initial phase of the program. So like if phase 1, if things change in phase 2, we will work with you to make sure that any documentation that we need regarding any changes to sub applicants has been updated, and that the actual application has been adjusted.
So if we know sub-applicants, or we know we're going to be working with certain entities, those should definitely be in the phase 1 application. And then they're included in phase 2.
Yeah, like in the project team profile, in the section 1 of phase 1, you'll want to include those that you think that will be sub applicants or that you'll be working with. But again, this is like the phase 1 is kind of low barrier, so we understand that things will change in phase 2. So if you have sub applicants in phase 1, then that would want to be highlighted in the beginning of the application, and then all that information will just be transferred. If invited to phase 2, all that information will just be transferred into the second phase of the application with unique identifiers and other things. So yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, so basically what happens is we'll send you an application key, and in that application key we will then just kind of work through the second phase of your application.
Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Other questions? I'll wait another minute or two. If there aren't any more questions, in a few minutes we can end a little early and give you a few minutes back in the day. And I've said it before, but I'll say it again. We really are available to talk to you and help you work out these project details and help answer your questions. We like to keep this all pretty straightforward, but we know things vary from place to place, from tribe to tribe, community to community, and the details vary, and sometimes you just need to kind of talk it through and help scope out the project and apply for the funds. So. Okay. So with that, I think we'll go ahead and conclude the webinar, and thank you all very much for joining and your interest in the program, and we hope to see some or all of you get a chance to apply. So, have a good afternoon.